Hello everyone, welcome to the Ask Me Anything with GDevelop's creator Florian. Enjoy!
Thanks, Arturo, for introducing this. First time we do this. I guess that will be interesting. Thanks to the people that suggested this to organize this, and thanks to Boo and Arturo 555 that organized the whole thing. Yeah, I guess we can start with the first questions. So the first question is Mr. Fixa asking, what is the future of this revolutionary engine? Like, what do you aim to present to people who want to make games and have fun when you decide to finish this amazing project? Well, thanks for the revolutionary adjective. I guess the project is never finished. That's something that we have to understand. It's a game engine, it's a project, and it won't ever be finished. But in the future, there are a few things that we'll do, and I think it's a good moment to announce that actually I'm happy to say that I founded a startup that will be dedicated to developing and expanding GDevelop. So it's not something that I've announced officially yet on the website and publicly. So I'm telling it to you right now. I will be full-time starting from actually this week working on the project. So I've left my job at Google. It was pretty good job, but still think that there is some interesting things to do on GDevelop. And what this will change for the project. Well, in the beginning, nothing. It's no big changes coming in the very short term because I just have to get used to this and to get used to it. But the important thing is that I will be able to get a team working with me full time, and there are a few things that we will do. But we will be able to spend more time on the app itself, of course, to robustify the product and the community. Because I was doing this on my spare time, I didn't have the time to spend a lot of time with the community. And I think that's something that we can do much more. There are tons of things we could do on the engine itself. I have seen that there are questions about 3D. We can get to this later, but there are tons of things like multiplayer, marketplace to exchange the extensions and the assets, all this stuff that for now are a bit basic, and things that could help also games, like I said, multiplayer, but also monetization stuff, so that it's easier to publish a game and to add advertisement or in-app purchases, everything that make GDevelop a bit more professional and that hopefully help the community to make games that are working better. So I went a bit ahead of the question, but that's hopefully that was useful. I'll continue with the next question. So the other question is, are there aspects or functionalities that you would love to see but either are not supported yet, Pixie.js, etc., would exceed the limit of GDevelop, or are just too complicated, complex, or exhausting to implement? I think that's a good transition with what I was saying, in the sense that there are things like, for example, 3D that we didn't really explore in GDevelop because it's a bit complex, and we need persons that are able to support this, and that's something that we could explore. Same thing for multiplayer. There is for now no easy way. Well, there is the peer-to-peer extension, which is working pretty well, but it requires a lot of effort to get anything done, and it's hard if you don't know how networking is working. It's a bit hard. So that's something that I would like also to implement at some point. Imagine if we could make some multiplayer games easily in GDevelop. That would be fun, and I think games would be even more interesting if you can easily add this multiplayer aspect. I was also talking about marketplace. I think that really the very basic asset store that we have in the app currently, well, it's just a library, right? It's like the extensions. I think if we could get something where you could push new assets, new extensions to the rest of the community, you will see easily what are the new extensions. You could rate extensions and share them easily. Same thing for maybe templates or examples for games. I think we could get a community which is even more integrated directly from the app. Something that for now was not the priority. It's still important to make first and foremost a very good game engine that is accessible to everyone. But I think that's the logical next step. Yeah. So I'm just checking on the latest questions to see if there are things that are interesting to answer now. Yeah, there was the question: is there gonna be a GDevelop 3D? Well, we'll see. We'll see if we can do something that is accessible and working well. And 3D is very different from 2D in terms of performance, in terms of how do you do a 3D level editor. So we'll see. We have to find a solution where it's easy to get started and we can still do pretty good things. The next question was, how did the development of GDevelop started? With what thought was it developed, and was there a desire to pause the development of GDevelop? So I think the idea has always been the same since the beginning. It's basically to give the tools and the power to you and everyone to make games without having the technical aspect that is too hard to get started. So for the fun fact, when I was younger, when I was a child, I was playing video games and I was always a bit frustrated because there wasn't an easy way to make video games. Like you can publish things on social medias, you can make videos, you can make tons of stuff, but making games, it's long and it's hard, and it's really the core thing that I was thinking with GDevelop. It's let me give to people some way to create games, which is way faster and way easier than learning a programming language and spending tons of time learning how to code. So yeah, I never had the desire to pause the development because it's working well and because it's open source. We have a great community. That's also something that will not change. That won't change with the startup. We will keep the whole thing open source. So Helper Weasley is asking, is there a plan to market the engine and increase its popularity among the general public? And if there is there any way that we, as content creators, game developers, hobbyists, can help out? Well, thanks for asking, because yes, that's, I mean, in the next month, even with with myself and the team working on this full time, we won't directly reach out to the whole world telling that GDevelop is here, because I think that if we make a good product, if we make something that you love and that we all love to work on, then there will be the word of mouth, and people will talk about GDevelop. And I think that it's going in the right direction. There are more and more people on the internet, on Reddit, everywhere, suggesting to other people to use GDevelop. And that's thanks to the community. So that's thanks to you. So thanks for telling people about GDevelop. Of course, at some point, I'd like to do a bit of marketing because I think that there are tons of people that don't know about GDevelop, and maybe people know about Roblox, about Unity, about Unreal Engine, but there is much less people knowing about GDevelop. So yeah, we'll think at some point about making it more popular. It's something that is something that we can try to do with marketing, but I hope that just the people will tell about GDevelop. Is there a way you can help out? For now, I would really say you just go and tell people about GDevelop. Tell them they can do games, but also other things. I mean, there are not only games that are created with GDevelop. So that's the best way you can help. Oh, also something, please continue to share what you're doing with GDevelop, your games. There are tons of games that are created with GDevelop and that I don't know, or the whole community don't know about, because, well, these games, they are just published and we never hear about it. So yeah, just tell us about your games that you're creating. Please make YouTube videos or blog posts or anything to tell that you're using GDevelop, and feel free to share your own assets or extensions. I know that for now it's a bit complex, but for extensions it's pretty easy. You put it in a zip file, you send it on GitHub, and that's helpful. The next question is, which roles do you think could benefit the most from more contributors? Well, I think on the development of the app itself, we have some good contributors, and of course, more help is always welcome. But we will also soon have a team of great engineers working on the app itself, so we can handle this even if all the open source contributions are very, very helpful. And that's the reason why GDevelop is here today. It's because of all the open source contributors. So that's definitely some way to help. And yeah, then the thing that where more contributors could be helpful will be on moderating the extensions, the new templates, the examples. For now, because I have to approve everything, we were discussing this on the forum a few days ago. I think it's Arturo 555 that opened the thread. I'm a bit of a bottleneck, everything has to be approved more or less by me, which is not really a bad thing, but because sometimes I have to actually look at the extension or look at the new example, and I cannot do everything. So it's better if I can get help from the community. If we were discussing about having team leaders, whatever, as long as, if you want to help, just go take a look at what is shared by the other contributor, give your idea about how to improve this, or maybe it's already very good. And in this case, I can just put my trust in you and approve and add the new example, the new extension, or whatever. That's what you can do on the community. I think we have enough moderators on the forum and the Discord. But of course, if you're interested in staying in the community, you can always apply. At least we know when we need someone new that there are people interested. Yeah. Let me continue. There are more and more questions, so I'll try to be a bit faster, maybe. According to the FAQ, one of the oldest versions of GDevelop came out in 2008. That's very true. What keeps you engaged with this project for over a decade? Well, that's true that it has been a long time. Sometimes I'm telling people like that it has been over for 11, 12 years now. Wow, that's even more. That's a bit insane. I guess that what kept me engaged is that there was always more and more people using the software. And what I say usually to my friends is that today, every day, I'm seeing something new, something that a new extension, a new game, some interesting thread open on the forum, some new contribution on the GitHub. Every day there is something new that is incredible. So that keeps me really engaged, and I think that this is a good sign that we're going in the right direction. And I'm also looking at the numbers of people that are using the app, and it's growing every month. And in last year, I think it's maybe because of the lockdowns, people had more free time, and there was twice the number of users from 1 month to the other. So that's great. And again, that's all about the community. And I think, and what is impressive is that we are doing this without even marketing, without even doing some marketing about the engine. So we could have even more creators and more people in the community, but for now it's growing at its own pace, and I think that we are in a good position to go faster. Yeah, I guess that I just love to create things for other people to create. I mean, creating, it's what I like. It's why I was a software engineer, to create new stuff for people. So yeah, that's it. Entropy is asking, is there going to be a feature freeze and a bug fixing period when exiting beta? So it's true that for now we just have a single channel for releasing the software, which is every version is a new beta version. It's a bit weird, right? We should make an official release and then maybe some beta. And when after 2 or 3 beta version, when we are sure that everything is more or less stable, then we can release this as a stable version. I'm not sure if we should do a feature freeze, because I think that what we could do is more like what we call a bug bash. What was it? It was called. There was another name when I was working at Facebook. I think it's a fixathon. Basically, you just spend as a team a few days, like 1 week or a bit more, a bit less, and you just fix bugs. And I think it's something important that we have to do. I know that there are still, lots of bugs and corner cases that are not always handled properly. So yeah, that's something we could do. I don't have any date about when we remove the beta version. In a sense, we should have done it like a long time ago. GDevelop is not a beta anymore, but some things are experimental. Yeah. So Scotch is asking, how are you planning on financing your transition to being full-time on GDevelop? Is GDevelop always going to stay open source? Yeah, so as you said, I have answered the second one. Yes, we're keeping the whole thing open source. I think it's very important because the mission of GDevelop and the reason why I created this and why everyone is there, I guess it's because we want to democratize and make game creation easier. For a long time on the website, I put this catchphrase, game creation for everyone. And that's something that I really think is fitting well with the open source approach. For the financial part, for now, GDevelop, it's not making any money, basically. So that's obviously something that we want to change at some point. We want to make GDevelop sustainable in the long term, so that we can, continue to work on it first, and then to make to have even more budget to make something that is growing a lot. And I think there is a lot of possibilities to do. So we'll keep the whole thing open source. For now, what I've been doing is that I've been getting some investments from big funds that believe in the GDevelop missions and that basically are giving money for us to work on GDevelop. And then we'll try to find how to get some monetization options so that first, as a creator, you can easily add stuff in your game like advertisement, in-app purchase, maybe some virtual coin. I mean, if you have ideas, please send them to me because I don't have all the ideas in mind. And then GDevelop could have a part of this. I'm not sure exactly how, but that's an idea. Of course, we could continue to have subscriptions for services like packaging applications, all of this. But, the idea is really to only make things that are helpful. And I'm seeing just a question, what about Patreon? That's a good question. The thing is that usually I'm seeing that open source projects, they struggle to get a lot of money. Even if you look at Godot, the game engine Godot, it's a very good game engine, like really, it's really well made. And at the same time, I was looking at the maintainer, the main author of Godot. He was telling that for next year they are missing some money to make sure that they can continue to work on the project. So first thing is that if you want to support Godot, it's also an open source project. Please do, and please send them some money. For GDevelop, I hope that I can find another approach, which is, something where we don't rely on just donation, because in the long term, it's not really scalable. Entropy is asking, did you get any inspirations from other event-based game engines like Construct Classic and ClickTeam Fusion? So it's pretty fun because Construct, which is also a great game engine, it's an amazing product. Construct, they started doing it a bit at the same time I started the first versions of GDevelop in 2008 or 9. So it's really fun because the first time I saw Construct, I was like, oh wow, that's my idea actually. So yeah, I mean, I got some inspiration not from Construct because it started at the same time as I did. So we got actually the same idea, which I mean, it means I guess that it's a good idea. I've been looking at ClickTeam Fusion before. But I was a bit frustrated with some limitation, and I think that the no-code aspect, the events, they are not as, I mean, I prefer the approach that I've made in GDevelop because I think it's more scalable, and you can see it because you can create new conditions, new actions, and new behaviors using the existing action and conditions by creating a new extension. I think that shows really the power of GDevelop. But as a fun fact, when I was young, there was the previous version of Creative Fusion, which is called the Games Factory, that I've been trying, and that's for sure something that inspired me. I've also tried things like RPG Maker, Game Maker, because obviously I'm like you, a gamer, and I like to create games. So before starting GDevelop, I started to look at what's available. I had something else to say, but I forgot about it. So we'll see if it's coming back. Really the only thing is that the events in GDevelop, I think that's the only software where you can create new extensions purely using events. And I think we are also the first game engine to have been introducing JavaScript that you can use inside your game. So if some other engines then want to get inspired from GDevelop, that's fine. I guess we have a pretty good community and application. Yeah, let's continue. Okay, there are more and more questions. A lot of features on the roadmap actually, and some are already released as experimental. What is the plan for these experimental extensions, dialog tree, time map, and what will be the priorities for the close future? So yeah, it's true that we've been labeling some extensions are experimental, like these tools, like the time map. The time map, it's a very important object, but because it's fairly new and we don't have a core contributor working on this a lot, for now it's experimental. I hope to get this in a state where it's fully supported and a bit polished. The time map, you have to create the map outside in tiled or LDTK, some external third-party level editors. So I like to have this inside GDevelop because it's good to stay in GDevelop rather than having to learn a new program to make something. Of course, it's good to have the ability to import your maps. If you are a power user that you prefer to use something else, that's totally fine. So yeah, what will be the priorities for the close future? There is for sure to be sure that we are polishing the software, and I like really to. I think that because I didn't have the time to spend a lot of time with the community, because my time was limited, because I had a day-to-day job, some things are not polished enough, and sometimes there are the UX or the workflow or some editors, they could be improved. So I think that's something that we can do. And as I was hinting, I'd like to make the community more integrated inside the application, with things like marketplaces or maybe something to create multiplayer games directly inside GDevelop. That's also the roadmap that I want to check with both the community and the team that will be joining me. It's not a roadmap, as we say, it's an idea of the future, but that can always change. A good example for this is the integration of Piskel, the image editor. That's something that I was not believing in having a third-party image editor inside GDevelop, because I was thinking most people were creating their images outside of GDevelop, but turns out that lots of people really like it. And thanks to Blurry Mind, who is the contributor to that, who added it, because it was a great idea. So that's an example of something that I've just learned by having other contributors, and I hope that we'll get some other good ideas like this. I have my own ideas, but of course it's always changing. Oh, there is something else on the roadmap. There is all the question of porting GDevelop to Android, iOS, It's something I'm not sure about for now, but I think that it could benefit even in the education. It could benefit GDevelop to be on iPad or on Android tablets. So we'll see that. Okay, there is a vocal question that is waiting. So let's do it, and then I'll go back to the questions. Yeah,
So I just want to say thank you for taking the time to answer all our questions.
that's my
Well,
pleasure.
my question is, what's your favorite game made with GDevelop so far?
Well, that's a hard question. My favorite game made with GDevelop. That's I cannot answer this. It's a bit like asking who is your favorite children. um, I don't have children for now, so that's okay. But I have tons of people in the GDevelop community. Um, Honestly, I'm not sure. Well, actually, I'm playing two games created with GDevelop. When they are on the showcase, I'm downloading them. I've been buying a few of them. Sorry if I didn't notice your game, but please be sure everyone to push them on the showcase. Yeah, I was of course impressed with the game in Brazil, by Juliet, that made 1 million downloads because it was really unexpected. And I think it's a good, it's a good game showing that actually anyone can get some success like this. But it's the gaming world. Sometimes you're making a very good game and people don't really play it, so it's a bit hard. Yeah, sorry, I don't have a straight answer.
Yeah, that's okay. It's a pretty tough question.
Yeah, okay, let's continue. Can you make a jump coding a little less complicated? I'm not sure exactly what the question is about. Is it about coding a jump in the platformer, but that should be very easy? Or is it jumping to code a little less complicated? If it's the second thing about coding in GDevelop, well, the idea with being able to add JavaScript at any point in your events, it's to help people, if they need to code directly inside. There are not a lot of tutorials about doing this because it's something for fairly advanced users, and most of the time people they are able to figure out by themselves. Yeah, feel free to ask again the questions if it wasn't clear. Can you share more statistics about the number of users and size of the community? Yes, I'm usually not telling the exact number of users because it's it's good to keep a bit of mystery there, and don't want to give too much information to other engines. But I mean, it's a kind of a joke. No, that's no big deal. But I can give you an estimation. There are tens of thousands of people every month. There are multiple thousands of people exporting a game every month, and I can share some interesting stuff about since a few months there are analytics that are built in and that are not shared to third party inside the games, and I can estimate that they are roughly between 500,000 and 1 million players, depending on the month, playing to games made with GDevelop. So see that what we are doing, it's very impactful because all the games they are reaching tons of people, and that's also the reason why I continue to talk. Sorry, not to talk, to work on GDevelop. Yeah. Oh yeah, Entropy was telling, by that do you mean object picking for the can you make a jump coding a little less complicated? Yeah, just a word about object picking. Everything is based in the conditions and actions of GDevelop. It's based on object picking, which is basically when you reference an object in a condition, then it's this object or these objects that will be used in the actions. Yeah. So sorry for the statistic about the number of users and community. Yeah, I skipped this maybe a little bit fast, but I think that maybe we can create some dashboard at some point to show maybe the number of games or something like this. But yeah, just to tell you that yeah, in 2020 we doubled the number of users every month, and it's still growing. So it's I think the community is not the size of an engine like Godot or Construct or Game Maker, but we're progressively progressing toward this. And I think that now that I'm working full time on this, and with the team that I will be getting to work with me, we can push this really way further. If we create the proper community with the proper way to share things, we could imagine that there will be more and more extensions and resources, so that creating games will be even easier as the time passes. And I think that with this, the community will continue to grow a lot. I continue. Is Chromebooks support an important thing? They are used a lot in schools, for example. Yeah, that's true that you can only use the web application on Chromebook. And the web application, it has a few limitations. The main one being that you cannot import your own resources. But actually, you can host your own images and sounds and on a website, and you can go to the resources editor and change the name of the file name of a resource. So you could actually use this, but it's a bit cumbersome. I'd like at some point to have support for adding your own resources from Dropbox, Google Drive, OneDrive, whatever. I think that it was never a priority because, for now, most people, we're using GDevelop on the desktop. So, yeah, there are tons of things to do, so it's hard to sometimes prioritize. But yeah, if we identify that it's something that will be greatly useful to improve the numbers of people using this in education, I guess that we can make this a priority. That should be fun. I mean, it's quite fun to see GDevelop being working entirely in a browser or on a Chromebook. And I always love to see people using GDevelop in education. That's not the main reason why I created GDevelop. It's for everyone, not just education. But that's really great to see it used by teachers and everyone. Is it possible to implement the ability to make conditions in the events? Example, move box with update var equal 1 to box with update var equal 2. Oh, okay. Well, not sure. Currently, you will have to iterate through all instances to find the update with the variable to 2 and store it, and then read it to set the position to the one that has the variable 1. Yeah, it's a bit cumbersome to do. I think that we discussed with a few community members. We discussed the fact of creating some alternative list of objects that are picked. So you could say find the object that has the variable set to 2, and you could store it in using another name like the target object, and then you could start again and use it in a condition or an action using the name target object or whatever the name you choose. Yeah, it's always a bit difficult to work on this because it's the core of the engine, so we have to make sure about how we design this. There is something interesting that I'd like to do. It's the wait action, to have something where you can, anywhere in your actions, you could add something like wait 5 seconds before continuing. And that could be also useful for web request, to send a request to a website, or for everything that is said to be asynchronous. It's kind of an advanced concept, but something that could help. You could do some kind of timeline like this that could be helpful to create cute scenes or animations. So it's something that we could totally add. We discussed this also with the community members at some point, with the core contributors. But it's just a bit of work, and it's I would gladly do this, but well, there are tons of stuff to do. Arturo is asking, do you plan on adding paid services like consulting, multiplayer servers, real-time collaboration session servers? Well, that's in the long term, I guess there are services that we could add like this. As I said, I'm not sure exactly what, but for example, multiplayer servers, it's something that if we could do it for free, that would be a good thing. Not sure if it's really doable, and yeah, that's the idea is I don't want to add anything that is limiting the software. Because GDevelop is open source, I want to keep this open, and you can do whatever you want. If you want to create something, we are not limiting you. Of course, we could provide stuff to go faster, and I think that it would be even better if we give this opportunity to the community. If you make a really good template that is downloaded, a very good example that you could publish on GDevelop and that is downloaded tons of times, there should be a way, to get a bit of I don't know if it's a virtual coin or real money that you will get that will give more incentivize people to do more stuff with GDevelop. But again, I have no exact decided plans about this for now. Not a question, but I just wanted to say that I absolutely love this engine. Thank you to the core, and really got me into making games ready. That's a goal. I've always wanted to make games, but GDevelop is on a completely different level, super powerful, and way more intuitive than everything I've tried before. So a huge thank you to you and the whole team. Well, thanks to you actually, because if nobody was using GDevelop, well, I would have been doing something else. But turns out that I really like the way it works, and I think that we nailed hopefully we nailed the balance between something that is approachable and something that is useful. And I think that there are still things to make it more accessible. For if we market the engine to more people, I think there are still things to do to make it easier to use. But yeah, that's great to read this, and happy that GDevelop is helpful for you. That's also the reason why I'm starting this whole company dedicated to GDevelop. It's because I want to have the time and the firepower in a way to make GDevelop something that is even better than now. Of course, it's a company, so there will be the question of money, but that's just a way to make the dream of game creation even better. So yeah, hopefully the next month and years will be interesting. I really think that GDevelop, it can be something as big as a very big brand. Because we are, we're kind of the first game engine in the world to make game creation easier for people. That's not something easy, and I think that if we can do this, we could see the game creation industry to evolve a lot in the future. Imagine if you could have the real commercial games that are powered by GDevelop. That could happen one day. Will there be a way to exit a function in extensions? That's really something that is, built into the no-code events, the conditions and the actions. But why not? I think there should be a way to do this. I'm just thinking, is there a risk that this is breaking some part of the code generation? Because all the events, the conditions and actions, they are translated to JavaScript. So I'm wondering if there is a way this is breaking something, but maybe not. We could add this. Yes, maybe. We'll see. We had GDevelop 4. We now have GDevelop 5 with multiple users, extensions, games, tutorials. So what is the next big steps? No idea. No, I'm joking. Yeah, well, that's a bit what I said. I want to give more emphasis on the community. For a very long time, I've been developing, and I think also contributors have been developing GDevelop as a fun project, and turns out that it's more than a fun project. It's something that can be, it seems, life changer for people. So we are only as good as the community. Imagine if GDevelop was there, but there was no community, just the built-in extensions and myself doing it. Well, that could be that's how it started, right? But that's not something really appealing for the future. So everything that can help making the community better, that will be great. For example, for now, we don't have any profile, right? When you're publishing an extension, when you're creating a game, there is no profile. There is no way to tell, as a GDevelop user, I made this game, and I made this extension, and it's used by all of these games. That could be cool if maybe we had some way to make it more obvious. Of course, I mean, we have all the community contributors on the Discord and on the forum, but still, if we could put a bit more recognition to people helping in the community, I think that could be helpful, and I think that could also help newcomers, people that are trying to develop, to feel part of the community and to see that there are tons of stuff that are being done. So they better stay with GDevelop. Not sure if anyone asked this question yet, but what about blurring in text? Is it going to be fixed anytime soon? So the short answer is no, because it's complex, and it's because the browser, the way it is rendering text, we cannot make it less blurry. But there is a solution. You should use the bitmap text if you want to make a text that is pixel perfect. Basically, it's because of the way browsers and the WebGL and the JavaScript works, but there is no way to make a text not blurry. Yeah, it's a bit sad. Well, there are ways, but you have to be very careful. And I think that if you go to bitmap text, it's just easier, and you get it done, and you can call it a day. And at some point, making games, it's also sometimes just going for the easiest solution. Boo is asking, how can I contribute to GDevelop? Well, I'm glad you're asking, Boo, and to the community. Yeah, that's a bit something that I've answered already. It's basically feel free to share what you're doing. It's really great if you can share on Reddit, on social medias, even on TikTok. We don't have. I just created a TikTok account for GDevelop, but I've not been sharing anything. Feel free to share stuff. And then I'm happy to tweet about what you're doing, or to promote what you're doing. For example, the creator that made the game Vi Juliet in Brazil, he's reaching out to people in Brazil, to politicians, to educators, to teachers, to tell them about GDevelop. And that's a great way to help the community. Of course, if you're a coder, you can go and improve stuff on GitHub. We have tons of pull requests to review because they are complex stuff, and I don't have the time for everything. So maybe start with something simple if you want to do that. And if you're also a game maker, well, please share what you're doing. That can be a game, that can be an example. We really need some more examples. There are tons of examples already, but if we have more and more examples, that will be helpful for everyone. So feel free to share, examples. You can do it easily by going to the examples GitHub, and they will be shared in the next version. Next question is, will GDevelop get a health statement? The answer is maybe. We had a discussion a long time ago about how to do it. There are two ways to do a else in an event. So doing an else, it's basically saying if the conditions they are not fulfilled, then you are launching other actions. The problem is what you're doing with the objects that have been picked by the conditions. Do you keep them? Do you ditch them and use the other objects that have not been selected? In both cases, I was able to find an example where it's not very obvious what is happening. So we might have something like a else, but which is something like not called a else, but something like execute these actions if the conditions are not okay. Yeah, we have 10 minutes left. You can still ask questions, and I will stop when we don't have time anymore. Will normal contributors like me, is asking Arturo, still be considered GDevelop team, or will that title be reserved to the paid full-time engineers? No, I think I'm happy to keep you in what we call the GDevelop team. We might do the distinction by having some kind of GDevelop core team, but honestly, I don't want to make a huge distinction because I think that really the power of GDevelop is about the community. I have the impression that I'm telling this a lot today, but yeah, I think that I don't expect a lot of changes for now. Also, don't make. Don't be afraid of this change. It's not like from one day to the other there will be 10 guys working with me on GDevelop and we will be doing stuff on our own. It's something that we will do progressively, and that will allow us to do things that we were not able to do before. Yeah. That's something that we will see with the team, actually, with the software engineers, with the maybe some people to help us on the community management, on the marketing. There are tons of stuff to do, and the core contributors, they are still core contributors, and you will stay there. One is asking, you created one of the first web IDE for making video games, also an engine who supports JavaScript natively, so web games are an important target for GDevelop. Do you consider HTML5 or web games have any potential on current markets? That's a great question. Yeah, I think they have potentials. There is potential for it, even if what is important with games, it's distribution and, in a way, monetization. That's how the world of gaming is working. I think that HTML5 games, it's a niche for now. It could be better. It could be better if we have more and more web stores like itch.io, or if it's becoming more well-known. But what is great with HTML5 games and web technologies is that they can work everywhere. And from these technologies, we can publish native apps. We can publish, desktop applications on laptops and desktop computers, on Steam. We can do a bit everything, and I really like this. So yeah, I was just thinking, publishing a game is hard. That's also something that we could help. We were talking about services that we could do around GDevelop. For now, GDevelop, it's just helping you to create a game, but we could think about, we could help you to publish your game. If we see that some games is working very well, we could do some kind of partnerships or some kind of program, like a graduate program for great creators. There are tons of stuff that we could do. Boo was sharing to me that we have on the showcase of games, we had 300 games that were submitted, and we have half of them that are approved. So yeah, please continue to send your games to the showcase. I will continue. We have a few minutes more. Will GDevelop get the ability to use push notifications or run the game in background? Maybe. Push notification will be great. Yeah, that's also something that we can help maybe with the team later. Because push notifications it's important for players to, when you want your players to continue to play your game, it's important to get them hooked and get them back in the game. That's not something that we've done for now, because it's a bit like, multiplayer, 3D, in-app purchases or advertisements. It's something that is a bit more complex, and so we have to think, how can we make this simple in games? Michael asking, so the next step should be the community growing. Yeah, that's correct. Why not make a community game? That's a good question. I think that we tried a few times, but every time it's hard to get people motivated enough for a long time. So you have to make a really small game at the beginning. What we could do is that we could help this directly in the game, in the application. Imagine we could have something like a list of games where you can download, that you can improve, and then you could share what you're doing. Some kind of collaborative game creation. You could push some suggestion of a new level. I think there is something that also we should put on the roadmap about making things more collaborative. It's a bit like in the community, basically, but still. So yeah, maybe you can start to organize this again. But I think that it would be very good if we can have something inside the app directly. A lot of the source code of GDevelop is written in C++. Do you have plans to move more into JS or TypeScript for easier contribution? Yes and no. The core is in C++. Basically, we're not moving this if it's not helpful. Yeah, I mean, don't be afraid too much of C++. It looks terrible, but it's not that hard to do. But yeah, I'm still very happy that we made the choice of using JavaScript and TypeScript for the editor. So we'll be moving more and more to this, and we'll keep some stuff that are complex or that are performance sensitive in C++ or maybe Rust or something like this. What is your favorite main programming language? That's a great question. I've been loving C++ for a long time, but I can tell that now JavaScript and TypeScript, that's basically the same thing. It's really my main and favorite programming language. What was your first computer model and operating system? What kind of computer do you run now? Good question too. I started with something which was Windows 95, but my father gave me a way older computer using just MS-DOS 4.1. And so I was spending too much time trying to make it work and learning. There was a book about that was bundled with it about coding in BASIC, the BASIC language. So yeah, that's my first computer. That's the Windows 95. It was crashing a lot. I'm not sure if everyone remembers, but when it was Windows 95 and 98, this thing was crashing every day. Now I'm using a Mac, a MacBook Pro, because it's working fairly well. It's fast and it's kind of expensive, but it's still a good computer for the price. So yeah, if you have the money for it, I kind of like it, and I've been hearing that the latest they are very good. Of course, the bad part is that I cannot really play on it. So I have a Switch, Nintendo Switch, and also I don't have a console, but I've been testing Google Stadia, and I was playing to Jedi Fallen Order recently. Pretty good game. I'm a big fan of Star Wars. Yeah, you need a good internet connection, but because I'm living in London, it's okay. Do you have any plan about console support, Nintendo Switch, for example? That's a good transition. Not really. The main problem is that you have to get some non-disclosure agreement with them, and you have to get some proprietary SDK. So it's a bit hard, but I hope that at some point Nintendo will maybe they will open the Switch to indie games, but we can only pray, so please pray. What are your other hobbies? Well, I'm spending tons of time on GDevelop. I like going to the gym. I used to go to the gym like 2 or 3 times a week. It was before COVID, so now I have a harder time going there. And yeah, I like to play video games, but I have much less time because I have tons of stuff to do on GDevelop. But yeah, I like playing video games. Not very, not very innovative as a hobby, but well, that's what it is. Okay, I'll try to go very fast on the latest questions. Do you think GDevelop will have spin-off in the future for other kind of software, websites, desktop? Well, yes, there are other companies doing, like, for example, something like called Webflow to creating websites without coding. I think that if GDevelop is successful as a game creator application, we could go way further and do other stuff. But games, it's what is the most interesting stuff in the world. So let's keep about games. There is a question in German asking, is GDevelop arbeiten? I think it means works with C++. Well, yes, I mean it's working with C++ internally, and it's compiled to WebAssembly so that it's running in your browser. And in the first version of GDevelop, you could the games that you were creating were compiled to C++, but that's just a detail. Will there be a source version control system integration like Git? That's a good question too. You can already use Git with the projects made with GDevelop. There is, I think it's the same question basically as the collaboration. If we make a way to collaborate in a way that it's easier, because right now you have to shared your game file. It's a bit cumbersome, to say the least. So if we make some way to collaborate, that maybe could be better than Git. Maybe we can base this on Git. One last question. Any plan to change the GDevelop UI? And that's a good question. Are you saying it's bad? It's true that some part of the UI is a bit terrible, but if this can be helpful, it was way worse before. In GDevelop 4, like some part of the UI was really terrible. I've not been really, I'm not a good designer. That's also the reason why I like to have people working with me. So yes, there will be some improvement on the UI. I think that also the reason, as a full-time job working on GDevelop, as part of a real company, we can spend time on improving the brand. And by the way, any plans on hiring a designer? Maybe not directly inside the GDevelop company, because it's hard for a startup to hire a designer, because the good designers, they are not working for you. They're working for big brands, or they don't want to go in a startup. At least I've been told it's hard to hire them. But I'm happy to say that we will get a designer. I'm not sure which company will help us, but we will get a designer to work on a new logo, a new website, an improved maybe product UI, and maybe a new name. That's I'm keeping this for the very end. And by the way, we're out of time. But there is maybe some rebranding to do at some point about the GDevelop name, but I'm not telling you more for now. I think it's a fine name, but also lots of people, they are put off by the name. So maybe we could think as a community about something that is a bit more, a bit more playful as a name. So if you have ideas, well, feel free to brainstorm. Yeah, I guess we're done. I will stop answering to questions. Yes, thanks, Michael, for asking to speak again. We will do another Ask Me Anything later. And yeah, can tile sets be implemented in GDevelop? I think that's the improvements to do on the tile map. I will leave you here. I think we're done. Thanks again for coming. Thanks for being part of the community. That's the reason why we're doing this. That's because people asked for doing this. So it's really coming from the community, not from myself, but I was very happy to do this and to see people there. So yeah, big love, and see you all later. And keep doing some great stuff with GDevelop. Please do. That's the reason why I'm here and why everyone is here. Thank you. Bye bye.